All right. Should be all good to go. Should be live. Should be transmitting right now. Let me just go ahead and make sure that we are going to be going live here, which we are. Sweet. Gonna mute that, so we're all good to go there. So what's going on, guys? So originally I was gonna, do this at 4:30, but my computer crashed right before Cup Series practice, and I wasn't able to start my scraper. And I have to start at the beginning of practice, otherwise I just don't get all the laps. So I'll just use abnormally distributed lap data once practice is done today for the Cup Series. So I figured I'd just go live now and get this out there. There will be a paywall show for this slate, so you can find that in the NASCAR slash F1 channel in the Discord and stuff. Once again, if you want to have any of the tools that you see me use on here on top of SaberSim and PayDirt Intuitive Analytics, you can go ahead and join us on any of these subscriptions. And I mean, regardless of which three you get PayDirt Analytics, projections, and stack tools, and all the tools that you see for MLB, for NBA, NHL, through the entirety of your subscription. Anyway, just want to point that out. I did see a question related to last night's truck race from Milton, and let's go ahead and answer that question with how I would answer it, looking at the tools and stuff here. And so yesterday was a straight up miss. No ifs, ands, buts about it. If we can get to the mother trucking Nashville race, looking at where and how the Nashville races had gone, I fully expected more single car spins and just more issues. We went green in the end. And when we're looking at Milton's question was specifically asking, do I see any more PD hitting today besides the main guy? It seemed like a lot of people just ran where they started last night. Maybe just me. At least that's what he said. Typically, I don't use average running position, but in a race that for the majority of the race went green, that is a decent stat to look at. And what I mainly want to focus on is the place differential that we see in this field. And so obviously outside of Ty Majeski, Chandler Smith, and Dawson Sutton, the three best expected place differential plays on the slate, with Dawson Sutton being the best value play as indicated by the 45% ownership that he had yesterday, plus all the projection sources, mine, everybody's liking him. Really outside of that, there was really no place differential gigantic moves outside of obviously Rajah Caruth going from 10th to 1st. But there really wasn't any real place differential here when we start sorting by where the place differential came from. Obviously, Rajah was the highest PD gainer yesterday, and then obviously Tanner Gray, and really past that, nothing really happened here. We did see a pretty significant fall off with the place differential that Matt Mills, William Sawallish, and Ankrum and Friesen had. But yet again, Friesen started in the back of the field. It was very difficult for these guys to get through the field. I just didn't. I thought we'd get more yellows, and it would help those guys out. Clearly, looking at the how the DraftKings scoring ended up panning out. Obviously, when we look back at the average of 10th place between the Truck Series races yesterday, we usually saw a mean of 42 points for your 10th place score. This one, the 10th best score on the slate was scoring 34 points. At least, obviously for me when I'm playing, Corey Heim, let's get this guy off. When I'm playing Corey Heim, Ty Majeski, Chandler Smith, I'm missing on the highest and the third highest scoring guy. And, that's how my day went yesterday. Even with me having Dawson Sutton here, even nailing 4 of the 6 guys. Obviously I didn't play. Rajah Caruth didn't play Lane Riggs. So anyway, that's how my day went. Anyway, the reason I mentioned that is Milton. I'm going to go and look at the same data points and stuff. Would I view I don't think it's an excuse. It's looking at how that race played out. I think the fact that this race stayed as green as it had in comparison to the other Nashville truck races that we had seen, this would be leaning on the not the outlier, but the situations that we just didn't get the yellows. We didn't see this race be nearly as chaotic or having last lap, restarts and stuff where people really start pushing stuff like that. So, at least what I'm looking at last night was, more of an outlier of what would to be expected at Nashville. And obviously I did not have a real good time. Yet again, going on the same avenue that I do every week. Obviously, at least for me, I'm trying to have the best chance to at least get, a couple takedowns in the year for NASCAR and DFS in general. The fact that I've already pretty much done that in other sports outside of NASCAR this year, what can I do to potentially, keep my streak of soloing, at least 1 to 2, contests a year and stuff. And what I do, or, the way I do that is just continually to do my strategy, looking through this and building for the races that I or building for the contest of how I typically do it. Last night just didn't work or whatever. I don't know. When I'm looking at Nashville today, obviously looking back at where we at here now, last year's race only had 3 yellows. We had 11 in 2023, 5 in 2022, and 8 in 2021. The amount of green flag laps, obviously the one that went green had 171, but we see 138, 161, 143. Lead lap finishers 23, 16, 12, 22. Crash DNF 0, 5, 3, and 5. Mechanical DNF 0, 1, 2, and 1. So what this indicates, and I'm more so doing this for people who, maybe don't have time to go back and watch these races, but these are, good overviews of what happened in these specific races last time. When we look at your main lap leader performances and stuff, obviously, as stated before, because this is Astukas' stuff, he is sorting by tracks and contests, the DraftKings specific contests that have similar laps led and fast lap, or actually just similar laps in general at these races and stuff. So obviously that's why we see Charlotte, Dover, Homestead, Kansas, Las Vegas, Nashville, New Hampshire. Phoenix is in here because obviously, Phoenix has 200 laps. This race has 188. Very at least similar type of contest structure. Might not be, a similar race or a similar track type. But when we're looking at this data point, it is very important to look at contests that are similar in terms of what the DraftKings points that are available in these races. Anyway, when we're looking at the Nashville races here, and we'll take a look at the oops. When we're looking at the two, Nashville races here that are, truly usable and stuff. Obviously, we see 2 runaways with Justin Allgaier and Kyle Busch in 2022 and then 2021 in these races specifically. The reason why these are listed like this is when we look back, and yet again, if you want to look at any race that NASCAR has data for, I was just getting asked by an individual earlier of, hey, do I have the optimals for, the old Nashville races for the Cup Series? Well, we have all the scoring for those. And what I want to show you here is when we're looking at we're going to look at these years, and I want to look at the Xfinity Series, and I want to look at the Nashville races and stuff. Where are we at? Nashville. There you go. We look at these races here. What I want to look at very quickly is you can just click here once it. Actually, that's 2025. Obviously, we haven't ran this one yet. When we look at these races, I want to show what we're doing in terms of laps led and fast laps here. Okay, and so Nashville. I think I'll load. So Nashville has been very spread out, a little more so than most intermediate tracks and stuff. Specifically, when we're looking at these laps led and stuff, and again, we're not looking at specifically what driver they are at this point. We're just getting an overview of what these races are doing and what these contests are looking at. 76, 64, 49. We see fast laps are pretty much spread out, across, and yet again, this is just last year's race, but we see 38, 25, 21, 16, 13, 11, 11, 11, 11. That was last year's race. We look at 2022 and we look at the race results here. And obviously we see the runaway of, 134, 48 and stuff like that. But we still see, outside of, Allgaier ran away, everybody else who has a decently fast car is anywhere in the range of, really 8 to like 15 laps or 15 fast laps. We look at 23. Yet again, another race to where, your main lap leader had 74, but then you had 33, 28, 25, 22 laps led, 23, 18, 14, 28 fast laps and stuff. And this is all, and typically when it's spread out like this is due to us getting yellows and people get on different strategies, mainly because we still had all these races had qualifying and practice. And obviously, outside of the two, runaways between Allgaier and Kyle Busch, I would lean much more to this race when we're looking at this grid here. Williams Wallace, Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Justin Allgaier, Craig Quaffle. This is a race where I would envision us to see multiple lap leaders in this race. Now, does that mean we have one guy lead 80 laps and then, 4 others lead like 25 or whatever? I don't know if it's necessarily that. But like I have absolute zero confidence in Williams Wallace, right? If you guys, we can go ahead and look at the practice laps and stuff here. But when we're looking at where these guys are at, starting wise and stuff, obviously you have William here, who's been pretty, all intents and purposes. The fact that, and yet again, this is not. At least I want to make sure I'm right here. I want to go ahead and check this really fast. William Sawalich, I believe he's 30th right now. He's 24th, my bad. That's really bad in a JGR car. The fact that, you're basically tied with your teammate who's only ran 5 races. Like Williams Walsh has been performing really, really bad in this car. Obviously, this is the second time starting pole. I have very little confidence in Williams Walsh doing anything. Now he could lead, the start of this race. I just don't believe William Sawalich finishes anywhere near the top 6 today, due to how difficult Nashville is, how close the rest of the competitors are. And so, like, personally, I'm not playing William Sawalich. We then look at the other individuals who are going to be competing directly against each other to lead, and that's Austin Hill, that's Sam Mayer, and that's Justin Allgaier. Now, Allgaier is higher in this average, but it's because he ran slightly less laps. When we're looking specifically at these 3 individual drivers here, you have Allgaier, Austin Hill, and where's Mayer at? And we have Mayer. Let's highlight these 3 guys here. And you look at where these 3 guys are running and what times they're at, and I'm going to be just going right to left. And we're going to be looking at specifically where these guys are at in terms of laps led. I'm not concerned about, if I'm not mistaken, they are all in the same group in practice, but yet again, I focus more on where these guys are actually in terms of where they perform in their races and stuff. These are all guys who are going to be competing directly against each other in this race. They're starting right beside each other. I think your race winner comes from one of these 3 guys. And when we're looking at where we're at, specifically between Allgaier and Sam Mayer, as I think they are the primary guys who are going to be competing with Austin Hill being a 3rd for your lap leader. We see, very, very similar early lap times between Justin Allgaier and Sam Mayer. I'm on the wrong tab. Let me get over here. As we continue on, you're 10, 11 laps in, we're still at solid 150s here. We see a slight decrease in what Sam Mayer is doing. And this is kind of where Austin Hill, like obviously Austin Hill doesn't start nearly as fast, but he still has a bit of a fall off compared to what Allgaier is at. And obviously Allgaier pits and stuff, make adjustments or whatever. But these guys are very, very similar to one another. I think the edge is slightly to Allgaier over Sam Mayer, but I would not be shocked to see Sam Mayer lead today. In fact, I have all 3 of these guys projected to lead laps in today's race because I think it's probably going to be more of a pit road and when do the yellows come out on top of kind of where these guys are swapping, mainly because like your pole sitter, I'm not playing William Sawalich. I can't project him to really do anything in this race compared to where he's been at in other races. Like, so we're losing, the pole sitter and stuff because I expect William to perform so poorly that almost hurts Austin Hill because if everything goes according to what should happen, Williams Wallace should have the dominant line on the initial start. Okay. And this is also why early yellows, off a restart, off the initial start is so hurtful to lap leaders in DFS is because William Sawalish or driver A, whoever has the pole, leaving coming off of a restart with fresh tires or at the start of the race, whatever, they have like the best chance to run away in whatever green flag run we're about to have compared to the rest of the field because they're controlling the green, they control what lane they want to be in. When we get an early yellow on that just brings everybody who he was supposed to run away from up close. That's yesterday's a perfect example, right? With Raja, having so many restarts and being able to run down Corey Heim, or you can look at it like with Corey Heim, you know, clearly throughout the race he had the second best car, but with where that early yellow happened, when Frankie, which like why is Frankie Muniz like pissed off? I don't know what he expected running with Reum. Like you run with the fucking worst team, and you're pissed off. You keep blowing motors and having equipment failures. I just don't understand it. But what was the point I was bringing up here? William should lead the first couple laps. Due to that, Austin Hill, who on recent form and just in general is a much better driver and in much better equipment due to William, like that, I think that's going to hurt Austin Hill having a real chance to lead, to lead in this race or at least lead early. That would then lead me towards, Sam Mayer and Justin Allgaier being your guy who should be able to run William down and then primarily fight for the lead. That's very long-winded, but I think those are your main Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, and Allgaier are probably your main favorites to lead laps in this race. And I don't think there's really a situation to where one of them kind of runs away with it, and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's kind of continue going through here, and then I'll answer any questions and stuff, and then we'll probably transition to the paywall show and stuff here. Yet again, I'm looking at the DK scoring ranges for races like this, which I think this falls much more in line on since we have qualifying and stuff. Your 10th guy is at 40. Your 5th and 6th guy is 47 and 49th respectively. The fact that we did get qualifying in today, and we're in a situation to where the guys, the value plays, the 5K guys who have always shown speed this year and the ability to compete for top 20s very easily, are starting in the back of the field. I think this is a race to where it's really easy to throw a lot of these potential lap leaders together, like Mason Massey starting last. We'll kind of go over his races really fast here, and I'm actually going to use a racing reference for this just because I don't necessarily need to go into the lap by lap stuff for him. I mean, we can, but which. Here, we'll bring this up for Mason Massey. So we look at his races here. Like I said, we don't necessarily need to look at what his I mean, we can. I guess we can look at it for Vegas and Darlington to see where they go. But Mason Massey starting last, 21st at Texas, 29th at Darlington, 37th at Las Vegas. You know what, fuck it. We'll just go ahead and goof around and kind of review these guys. And yet again, I'm not just talking about Mason Massey here. We have several drivers in the back of the field that are going to project very well based on their salary and potential upside. But let's go ahead and look at what he did at Vegas. And this is where he was running at Vegas. And yet again, puts in the context of, he's starting last today. We had Mason Massey, have, very, very slow practice stuff. But in terms of typically where he's running, yet again, he had I think he had a tire issue or something at Vegas, obviously, running right around 20th, 29th, or I bet 27th and stuff until he had his issue. We look back at Darlington. So yet again, this is typically how I view or how I use. I mean, I use this tool a lot, but this is a great situation or a great way to see what people are doing. So yet again, starting last, finishes 29th here. I don't believe there is much carnage in this race. And then the other one is Texas. Obviously, Texas was, Texas. with them wrecking and everything, so on and so forth. But Mason Massey at 4,900. Like, I mean, that I can't think of a better time or literally a better play at $4,900 based on somebody who should finish, right around like 29, 30, and so on and so forth. Like, he needs very little to pay it off. We look at Myatt Snyder. And just so I can see what races these guys are in. If we can get it to load. He's ran 2 this year. I believe one was at an intermediate. I could be wrong. Yeah, we have Homestead here. Let's take a gander at Homestead and what Myatt Snyder did at Homestead, which I'm less high on Myatt Snyder yet again, kind of running where he should be at 31st, 29th in this race here. We look at Jeffrey Earnhardt, who actually hasn't ran an intermediate track. I looked at this earlier. I'll show it to you again. Jeffrey Earnhardt was like an interesting. Okay, so here's the deal. So like 6,300. Earnhardt's really, really bad. Okay, like historically, like disgusting, right? Especially in the Sam Hunt cars. I mean, I really hate going back 2 years to see how somebody has done. We look at last year's, in Michigan, 21st at Michigan, hasn't ran intermediate since. We look at the race last, he's ran this year, ran Talladega. We go back 23, 26, 29, 37, 26, 21, 19, 32. Like, Jeffrey just sucks. But the fact that he's starting dead last, basically dead last, bit appealing. We go to Poole, who I think is literally the best, who's one of the best drivers in the series right now based on the equipment that he has. I mean, him and Retzloff are pretty much carrying where are we? Pretty much carrying Alpha Prime. Like, the fact that Poole has like a real car who can compete, like we've seen multiple situations already this year proven that like anytime Poole is starting in the 30s, play Poole. The fact that we have Poole at $5,900, the fact that we have Mason Massey at 49, the fact that we have Retzloff, at 29 or starting 29th and stuff. Like, there's a lot of good plays, potential upside that that Earnhardt can have or whatever the case may be. Like, there's a lot of guys in the backfield that we haven't even got to, like Taylor Gray, Alfredo, other people in the mid 20s who can very easily pass, or at least should, based on what they do at usual intermediate tracks, who should at least be able to pass like 6 to 7 guys in this race. I really, really like the idea of trying to jam in as many of these potential lap leaders as possible up front, because we just have basically a free square at Mason Massey. Now, that does not mean I want to lock in Mason Massey. That means that, hey, if I'm building a lineup, and I need, I'm potentially going from, Brandon Jones to, hey, if I just play Mason Massey, I can go from Brandon Jones to Sam Mayer. Like, I would absolutely take that, type of build, right? But like, Mason Massey's in play, Snyder's in play, Earnhardt's in play, Poole's in play, Nick, like a lot of values down here in the 5 and low 5K range to very much make a a stars and scrubs type of build. I want to see what you guys are saying first before I transition to the paywall show, where we can go in more detail of what we're potentially looking at in terms of builds with my stuff and what the public is doing. Very quickly, this is where everybody is on practice time. I haven't mentioned Ross Chastain, not due to really any reason. I was more so speaking of these guys up front for potential lap leaders. Obviously, Chastain at 12,000 is really, really difficult to get to, but showed the best car. Okay, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, granted, ran a much cleaner track. Like, this is where I'm sure whatever track group you want to be in, comes into play. But even if he's slightly slower, he's probably very similar to Allgaier in terms of speed and everything. This just the 12,000 is going to be difficult to get to. If I end up getting to Chastain, I get to him. If I don't, I don't. I don't really have a view past that. Let me see. Rosh Sieg asked about Kyle Sieg. Let's go ahead and look at Kyle Sieg really fast here. Where's Kyle at? Okay, so I'm assuming he did. Take a quick look online. I think that's just due to the concrete nature of being in Group 1 on a clean racetrack, because you had Kyle Sieg, Alfredo, and Brennan Poole and Snyder all in the best laps here, because from what I can tell, there's nothing really special about this 28 car. I'm mainly just kind of double checking the practice speed really fast. We look at Kyle Sieg and how he's been doing. From my memory, I've been playing him kind of on and off this year. As stated, I really try and chase Poole and Ellis. Like last week, I played a ton of Ellis, and he finished 9th out of fucking nowhere, right? Let's kind of see where Sieg has been at. 30, obviously got involved in that crash. 22nd, 20th, 30th, 27th. Gonna certainly need to be a guy who's gonna need help. We look at Homestead here, so let's look at Kyle really fast. My keyboard died. We see Kyle Sieg, obviously using strategy to get up, slowly falling through the field, but mid driver there, or mid, what is it? What is the word? In the middle of the pack there. Let's go ahead and take a gander at Las Vegas here. We're on Las Vegas. Okay, cool. Now, this was one of the better showings that Kyle Sieg has. He really hasn't repeated that type of speed. And I believe something was, I don't exactly remember what was going on here, but that speed has not been duplicated at other tracks this year. We look at Darlington. They're pretty much always playing strategy in some form or fashion in this first stage to try and gain positions, and obviously, pitting on the second lap there. But Rockingham, I believe he finished 20th. 21st. I mean, he's like right in the mid-20s. So, I mean, you asked about my opinion on it, but what about Kyle Sieg? I'd have him running like 24th. Today, the fact that he's starting 28th, there's just much better plays in the 5K range. I don't need to tell you this. Any projection source should tell you this, but Brennan Poole is probably the best value play on the slate. I would do everything I could to get to him over literally anybody else back here. Really past that, I think we can go ahead and wander into the paywall show, to where we'll start looking at what potential lineups are being made and used, and so on and so forth. I do want to do a quick rant really fast here. Actually, no, I probably don't need to do a rant. It doesn't look like I'm going to compete in this FanDuel thing at all. I want to know what's up with this guy really fast here. Yeah, I'm not going to compete here. But this was really, really interesting here. As stated yesterday, I'm going to try and really experiment playing more. Here's this fucking guy. So I don't think this was an absolute like forget to change. I think this was absolute on purpose. But like, I'm pointing this out. Like, obviously, I don't recognize all the names on FanDuel because I haven't, I play there, during football season and like during play races, right? But I'm really trying to focus more on just playing FanDuel in general. And this just kind of pissed me off earlier. This motherfucker has a fucking 20. He just played the same line 20 times. Like, what is this, League of Legends bullshit? But I just don't think I'm going to compete to really do anything on this one here. So unfortunate there. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the paywall show. You can find that on Discord shortly if you guys have any questions or want to continue this or join. Feel free to join us in the link in the description below. You can join any of the packages. Will actually give you Discord access to these shows and stuff like that. So I'll see you guys in that show. See you guys in a minute. Bye bye.